I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Welcome back to On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast. A week ago, we announced a pretty significant milestone in Weatherby's company history. Our third action in 78 years.
No.
Third action in
Yeah.
well in total
yeah.
in total time, and then basically our first action in 50 years.
Yeah. So it's been a bit of a ride. So it's been good. We're 1 week into this. So.
Yeah. So joined today. So last week it was Adam. We talked about kind of the why, the reason we introduced this new Model 307. Today it's going to be a little more nerdy. We're going to get into a little technical deep dive into the nuts and bolts of the Model 307. So we've got Tyler, our marketing manager, Ryan, lead design engineer.
Yep.
That's a cool title.
He's the brains behind this, which is important. And then Jared Smethurst.
Just gun nerd is probably the best way to put
I
that.
call him Gun Wikipedia.
Yeah,
Technically, he is one of our product managers here at Weatherby. And
He's becoming a regular.
if you ever meet him at a show, I dare you to try to stump him with a gun question.
Oh no.
The challenge is on.
Challenge is open. Okay, so Ryan, I'm gonna direct a lot of questions your way, so I hope you're ready. Give us just a little rundown on kind of your take on what this Model 307 is. Obviously, it's a 700 clone. We'll call it. It's in the Remington 700 footprint. But past that, like, what's unique about it?
So we took that Remington 700 platform, what the things we liked about it, and basically made it our own, made it more manufacturable, and beefed up on some things that we thought made sense for this. For a hunting rifle. So looking at this tubular design, action.
So the tubular design, I'm like notorious. I just interrupt a lot. So a standard 700 has like a scallop on the back.
Yep.
For the back scope mount. So this would not use a standard 700 scope mounts. I think on our packaging it's going to say Stiller / Savage style because it is a full cylinder.
That's right.
Front to rear.
Full cylinder front to rear. 840 screws on the top end here. So you're getting a little beefier screw, holding whatever mounting device you're going to be using. And then going in, so we've got action, and we are pre-hardening that so that we aren't seeing any movement after heat treat, after machining.
Yep.
So this thing's going to stay super straight for us. And then we've got a in here Cerakoted bolt, and that's also pre-hardened before machining. So we're keeping super tight tolerances on these, both of these interfacing pieces.
The receiver body has an external bolt release. That's
right.
We talked about where we wanted it intentionally. Like it's pretty high on the receiver body compared to others on the market. So pretty much any aftermarket stock, you shouldn't have any interference.
Total
or
clearance there.
issues.
Yeah, total clearance there. But it is pretty intuitive location for it when you're using this thing. And then if we can go into the bolt now.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've got a toolless takedown on this bolt here. So you can get to your firing pin assembly pretty quick here and do what cleaning you need to in the field. No specific Remington 700 tools that you need to buy for this thing.
So that if you're just listening to this podcast, like while he was talking about that, he took the bolt down and then put it back together, like all the way down to the firing pin and firing pin springs.
Yeah, so we're just in a cock position here, a little bit of pressure on that firing pin, that shroud. the firing pin assembly, and we got 3 pieces in my hand here, just like that.
That's pretty cool. So that's like, for a guy like me who is dangerous enough to get into some of this stuff, it's good for like maintenance, or if you're drop your gun into the water.
That's
something
what
like
I
that.
think of in like the worst possible situation, if you dunk your gun. And I've been on a few hunts in Alaska, or I haven't done it yet, but I've seen it done. And it's a nightmare to try to clean all the water out, and especially if you have freezing conditions at night. Like, you want to get that stuff out of there, plus corrosion. So that makes it super easy to do that.
How does it compare to like other actions, like a 700?
So we were pretty excited about this being toolless, but 700, you've got to use a specialty tool to take that thing apart, to compress that cocking piece, and then take the bolt apart.
So one of the things in the development of this tool-free takedown system, we wanted to make sure that the bolt handle cannot be removed when it's basically the bolt is in the closed position.
That's right.
So you probably would be a little more better at describing how that works.
In the uncocked position, there was a concern in development that if we're going to get any pressure on that shroud, that handle's going to fall out free, right? Because I can take it apart super easily, but it's
the
only
bolt shroud is the part in the back that basically hides
right
the
here.
cocking piece.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yep. So the bolt shroud in the rear of the bolt assembly there.
It's got like a interference. We don't really have a name for it. There's like an interference nub.
Well, yeah, we've got a nub that's basically preventing that shroud from advancing forward and compressing
when it's in
the uncocked position.
It won't advance forward. Yeah.
Yep.
So you cannot, if the bolt is closed, you cannot remove the bolt handle.
Right.
Which means if you're hiking around, you don't have to worry about this falling out. So that's what would mean.
Yeah.
For you.
So easy to take down, and it's going to stay together for you. It's not a brazed interface on the bolt handle like you might have with Remington 700. Like, we've got a lot of integrity back here and strength with that interface that we designed. So
it's a really clever way to put it in there, and there's virtually no play in the handle also, which feels amazing. And then that's a threaded bolt knob as well.
That's 5/16 24 threaded bolt knob. So interchange that with whatever you feel most comfortable with. We're pretty excited about this shape right now. Pretty ergonomic for anybody using it, but anybody can feel free to swap that out.
I was say we went through a few iterations of that bolt knob. So
we did,
I
and
do like
we
where
landed on this. Yeah.
It's a fine balance between like grabbing it
being
easily,
huge,
and then also like, wow, this is absurdly huge and in the way.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'd say our bolt handle is pretty unique design wise.
Yeah, I mean,
else
there's dovetail designs that are out there. There's some other ways to do it, but ultimately they're usually pinned in some way, and so we're basically using the tension that already exists in the firing pin to kind of hold it all together.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool. Jared, what extractor were you using on that sucker?
That is a M16 style extractor. So a standard 700 and a lot of clones will actually use one that is a piece of stamped steel that is extremely difficult to remove, and then also, you basically have to replace it if you remove it. They're a little finicky, and so we went with the M16 style, which is similar to the Vanguard and a few others. It gives it it's just a great extractor. There's
it's large, so it's got really positive. If you're hand loading and you maybe get loaded a little hot for some reason, and you have a tight case, it's going to give you a little more positivity and removal.
Yeah, and then also it's really well designed. It's kind of notorious issue with sometimes with having having the cases flip in some other actions where they'll actually not eject, but they'll flip around in the ejection port. And this design actually does a really good job of holding it and flipping out of the, giving a good surface to flip it out of the gun. So, really good design. And then also it's, held in there with a pin and has a spring underneath. So really, really great design. And if ever needs to be replaced, really easy to replace.
Yeah, not complicated. And what we have here, we've got 2 common pins for both the ejector and the extractor on this.
Just standard roll pins.
Standard roll pins. Those would be interchangeable. We're using the same pin on both of those. And all through testing with this thing, the extraction's been phenomenal. Thousands of rounds through these guns, consistent extraction.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
Question: if there's some really nice aftermarket bolts, if somebody wanted to go that route with our action, would it be compatible with the standard 700 bolt?
Yes, it should be.
Obviously, there'd be some head spacing that would need to be done if you were swapping your bolt out. But so I guess where I was going is the lug lockup is that's
that's the common
part.
That's common on your action and your bolt there. That's a common interface there.
Yeah, Raceway with the cutout and everything else is standard 700. So that's one of the design features to be carried over, where it's like, this is important. It needs to be compatible with other bolts. So
Yeah. So in our podcast last week, one thing that we did not talk about is something we have never done before at Weatherby, which is we're going to be offering this as a builder's action, which we've never sold just a plain action, like, ever. So we're really excited to be able to offer this, and basically, if you're watching this, the one we have is essentially in the white. It's unfinished, but we're going to be Cerakoting them just black, so there's corrosion protection. If you're using a stainless steel barrel, you're going to need to drop a trigger in, pick your stock, get your barrel. If it's pre-chambered, you're going to need the headspace, but you're going to have to headspace it either way.
Yep.
And thread your barrel on. We'll ship it with a recoil lug, which is what you're going to be using to headspace on a 700. And yeah, you're off to the races. Trigger fitment is
standard 700.
But because we have the bolt release in the side of the receiver, we don't need a trigger that has a bolt release built into the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And that's actually kind of a cool feature. So it's a pretty uncommon, breakage, but it does happen. Is on a standard 700, all of the force and impact of the bolt striking the bolt stop is actually transferred to that front pin. So what you can actually have happen is you can have that actually shear off in the, have that pin shear off, and then you actually end up getting a bolt in the face whenever you're cycling it.
Is that bad?
It's not preferable. So,
but this design is going to avoid that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. The standard models do ship with a Trigger Tech trigger, so that's a premium. And then we actually worked with Trigger Tech on like the optimal sear to cocking piece interface, right?
Yep.
So yeah, they're awesome to deal with, and we've been using the Mark V trigger for almost 4 years now, and it's been phenomenal. I don't think we've had a single issue that I'm aware of. Now that I say that, I'm going to knock on wood. But
they're great. I love them.
But that trigger is going to be adjustable 2.5 to 4 pounds.
Awesome. Before I get too far away from the builder's action, Cerakoted black, like I said, our MSRP on that action is going to be $749, which is
That's pretty darn good value.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah. So if you look in the overall action market, there's very, very, very few that are sub 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And at this price point, it's essentially already finished. You get a fluted bolt, threaded handle, like everything except for a trigger, basically, and you're ready to roll.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then going into maybe a little bit of detail on the builder's action. So we've got a long and short action. We'll have 1/16 threads on the front here, so it'll be compatible with any of your Remington 700 barrels, aftermarket barrels, and then
1/16.
1/16.
1 and 1/16.
1/16.
Gotcha.
16.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's hard to say.
Barrel thread, and then we've got standard Magnum bolt face
for short and long.
Short and long.
At our launch, because we're not going to have a Magnum short action,
Right.
In our initial lineup, we'll only have the standard bolt face in the short action, but we will do Magnum and standard in the long action. So,
Yeah.
Another cool thing about like the builder's actions too. So, like, because you'll see like 700, a lot, a really common thing is to take a 700 or just the action and build off that. But a lot of the advantages you get with a 307. So, it's, drilled, broached, and then hardened. And then after that, after it's hardened, you have all the machining done, all the machining ops done to it. So, although, it's going to like cause more tool wear on the manufacturing side, what it does is it gives you an extremely straight action that's not
super
warping.
consistent.
Yeah, super consistent, as opposed to other manufacturers will do all the machining ops and then harden it, and what you end up with is a very slight banana.
There's movement.
Yeah.
With the ejection port, you're changing how that thing's going to bend consistently.
Yeah. If you're watching the video, what happens is you have a lot of steel here, not much steel there on the ejection side, and then basically it warps it as you heat treat. So that's a cool thing where you don't really, I don't think we've measured it for blueprinting, but it's basically what you would end up if you blueprinted.
Yeah,
a
it's
700.
nearly a. We're not saying that, but it kind of is.
Nearly
Correct.
perfect.
Yep. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about on the builder's action. Did we talk about? We talked about the threaded bolt knob. No, we're there. I'm super excited because it's just going to be a great platform and starting point for builders, and then it's a market that's been pretty hard to come by. I know a lot of the custom guys have gone to the Tikas because for a while and still today you can't really find a standard just 700 builders action.
Yeah.
So this is going to be very easy to work on for the custom gun guys, and I'm thrilled that we're going to be offering it. I know what it was. There's one thing that was bothering me. There's also an available accessory for this. We've got a pick rail that's pretty clever, I thought. It's called the J rail.
The J rail. I wonder who that's named
and
after.
the namesake of the J rail is our very own J Rod. Jared, would you please tell us about the J rail?
Alrighty. So we mount dozens, if not hundreds, of scopes like regularly. Like it's just like we're always switching
All the
scopes
time.
all the time.
All the time.
We're swapping scopes. We're doing all sorts of stuff. And a kind of trend in the optics realm is that to put really big like ocular lenses that have ocular housings that have like big magnification rings. And
They're easier to twist.
They're
It's a
easier
good
to
thing.
twist. Yeah, they're great. And they also are extremely difficult to have not hit your mounts. So basically on a rail, if you have a pick rail that goes across the whole way, you have two options. You have mount it up way too high to
Clear.
clear that magnification ring, or mount it behind
Further back than you want.
Further back than you want, then is optimal for your eye relief to clear it that way. So what we did is we designed a cut in the back that basically eliminates that. I've never, out of all my years mounting scopes, I've never had to mount a mount that far back. And I thought, oh man, we should just literally cut that out, and then it would like solve 99% of our problems there.
So Jared's idea was to remove basically the last two teeth on the pick rail, and that way you still get the advantage of the pick rail where you can move your mounts up and down. You can take them off easy, and then you don't have the clearance issues.
Yeah.
And Jared did a great job getting the ejection port to line up like darn near perfect with the underside of the pick rail for that J rail. So
whenever you said I did that, yeah, I'm taking credit for 100% of something I didn't do. But that's great.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. Well, I think it was your idea. So you did it. You may have not been the one that
I
like
birthed the idea.
Yeah,
and then
I mean, you got to just credit where
did
credit's
nothing.
due, Jared.
Okay.
He was so Jared's also like one of the most humble guys that ever, and for sure that works here. And we're like, what are we going to call it? And we're like, we're going to call it the Jarrett. And he's like, no, we're not. I'm like, then it's the J Rail. And that's where the name came from.
Yeah, even the product code starts with a J,
Yeah, it
which
does
is
start
kind of cool.
He's turning
One and
red.
only. I'm always red. It doesn't count.
All right. That's a builder's action. The J Rail is an available accessory.
Mm-hmm.
You can get that on the website. Also, there's 2 models in the 307 lineup at launch: the Range XP, which we have here on the table, and the Alpine MDT that uses that MDT Hunt 26 chassis. That Alpine MDT will come with the J Rail on it.
Yes.
The Range XP does not. So you can get one or whatever other full cylindrical 700 style mounts that you want. EGW makes some great mounts. Tally, you name it. There's lots and lots available for these. So let's talk about a little bit more about the individual models. So Tyler, give me a little rundown on the Range XP.
Yeah. So the Range XP features the action that we just talked about. Cool thing on this is it's got a vertical grip stock on it that features an adjustable comb and adjustable length of pull. So pretty much getting a custom fit. So pretty cool on that feature. It also features a drop bag.
Yeah, I love drop bags.
A drop box mag from Magpul. So something that we haven't really done before. And then that, the
Which is a Wyoming company.
Which is Wyoming,
Which is
so,
really cool that
yeah.
it's just keeping it in Wyoming.
Yeah.
It's
And then,
super populous state.
it's got dual front swivel studs, so you can put a bunch of different attachments on it. So
Awesome.
Bipods, slings, all fun stuff.
yeah.
So since it does use the Magpul bottom metal, it's using Magpul mags. So there's options.
Your AICS standard mags. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just with Hush guys this weekend, and I was talking to Logan, Casey Butler's brother. He's like, man, the first thing that Casey did was get a 10-round mag for this 308.
For the 308.
I was like, all right, good on you. That's cool. So, yeah, short and long. And, MSRP of $11.99.
Yeah.
So these are going to be pretty much retail for $1,100, and that's a lot of features: brake, spiral fluted bolt, removable bolt handle, adjustable stock. It's got all the things.
Yeah, and the Trigger Tech trigger comes standard.
And a Trigger
That's
Tech trigger.
It's not an upgrade, so it's pretty cool that that's in our $11.99 model.
That barrel contour too is it's perfection. So it's
Who thought of that
happy
barrel
medium.
contour, Jared?
the product.
It's the J barrel.
And you're still being humble. Huh?
It was product development collectively. But yeah, so the barrel itself is so it'll fit obviously 700 style mag sporter actions. So it's kind of in between our 2 and 3 on the Weatherby side, if you're familiar with that. So it's like a really nice in between, like a hunting style and range style. Like it's not too light, not too heavy. It's kind of that perfect middle ground. And then also from 16 to 26 inches, if you ever chop your barrel down,
Which would be hard since we flute them. But, but you could
be
still.
done. But it's actually from 26 to 16 inches. It's actually the exact same diameter, even though you can't tell it from looking at it. So it's really nice from just brake fitment, thread cap fitment, everything else. Yeah.
Yep. It's awesome.
1.5 24 threads on the
28.
muzzle thread, 28 thread on 1.5 28 muzzle thread on the end there. The muzzle.
Jared, what you got on the Alpine MDT?
So I was not really a chassis fan until I picked up the MDT.
I'm in this boat
26.
as well.
We have shot a lot of chassis guns. We played with a lot of them, and I always just say I don't know. I'd just rather go with the regular stock, and that is until the Hunt 26 came around. It is just awesome. So, it's a magnesium. So the action itself is magnesium. So you have what you're torquing against and everything else, and then you have basically carbon fiber everywhere else. So the grip, the buttstock, and the fore end is carbon fiber. So the front has M-Lock, built in the carbon fiber. It has ARCA built in the carbon fiber. It's just really well thought out. and it is and it's folding, which is super cool. So
I love the integrated ARCA rail. Like basically the entire foregrip is ARCA. I don't always run a camera, but when I do, it's got ARCA rail on the camera. So I've got a tripod already that's using the same mount. And there was more than one hunt last year where I'm like taking the camera out of the tripod, drop the gun in there, clamp it down, and it's like rock solid. And because it runs the whole length of the foregrip, you can clamp like right in front of the magazine, and it's not quite the center of gravity of the gun, but it's close enough that even on a lightweight tripod, it holds it really steady. It's pretty awesome. The downside to me on a lot of tripods, when you have pick rail just way at the front of the foregrip, is all the weight's in the back, and it's just trying to it's just trying to like tilt back. So you can kind of fix that with this stock. It's sweet.
Yeah.
There's also a QD mounts front and rear.
QD mounts
And swivel studs.
and swivel studs. It's got, and it's also adjustable. So your cheek riser is adjustable. Your length of pull's adjustable. I think it's like 12 and a half, 13 and a half.
I believe that's correct.
On length of pull. And then, and it's usually, so like, I think what it makes it really unique too is that on chassis, you either have something that's really lightweight and minimalistic, which basically means it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Or you have really heavy ones that have all the features and they can do all sorts of fun stuff, but it's a boat anchor. And this is like the perfect balance of like, has everything you need, nothing you, well, it might have something you don't use on it, but it doesn't matter because it's super lightweight.
It's still so light.
And if you needed it to be heavier, you can add weights and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so that's what I was about to say. Is usually we're looking at things through a hunting lens. The whole idea of this 307 action was we've got maybe the best hunting action already with the Weatherby Mark V. The 54-degree bolt lift is, I mean, it's still
phenomenal.
It's still like it's awesome. We actually we tried early on. I think even before you got here, Ryan, we tried to do like a 54 or 60 degree lift on this, and ended up just punting because we couldn't do it better. We could actually only do it worse than the Mark V, and then you lose some of the smoothness when you're trying to do that much work on basically a 2 or 3 lug design instead of our 9 or 6 lug, and it just the bolt lift felt terrible. And so all the way through this development cycle, we've been like, okay, let's take off our just straight up hunting hat a little bit and think a little bit more just about, PRS and NRL and just going to the range, which historically is probably not where Weatherby has lived, because we make really, really big Magnum cartridges that are probably less enjoyable. You're not going to take your 460 to the range for, a 100-round session. It's not going to be very fun, but this gun is more about doing that. So there's a lot of non-Weatherby cartridge offerings in this lineup. You're going to see some stuff you've never seen before, like PRCs. You're going to see maybe a 28 Nosler, which is a little different, which is pretty cool. It's very different for Weatherby. It's a different mindset. So what I was going to say on the chassis is, we've historically been like, chassis are just too heavy. Why would you carry a 14-pound gun with you out in the field? That Hunt 26 chassis, like it solves that. It's so light. Plus the butt folds, and so you could put the whole gun like in your pack, like in the bag part of your pack. It's pretty awesome. And then we've got some heavy chassis here that we've been playing with too that are pretty sweet.
They're fun for range shooting.
They're really fun for range shooting. I don't want to do the shoulder damage of carrying a 14-pound gun on a 7-mile backcountry hunt one way.
But yeah, both of these are going to be awesome. You mentioned NRL, man, the factory class. Like, you're going to be able to compete in factory class with these rifles, and you're going to get the adjustable cheek piece and length of pull. Like, that's pretty cool for a factory
ready to roll.
rifle. Yeah.
Ready to roll. One thing on the MDT is the magazines are slightly different than the Range XP, in that they are polymer MDT mag, are what they'll ship with, and they're a flush fit, so they're a little smaller. The Magpul mags are going to be 5 rounders, and the MDTs, I believe, are 3.
Yep.
So, and then the long action MDT mag is like super long. It's like a 3.850.
3.5,
Yeah. So it's like the longer size. So it's a little bit different fitment, not necessarily a standard AICS. So, man, I'm super excited about the Model 307 in general. Is there anything that I'm missing here? other than how awesome it is?
I think the cool, and kind of wrapping up the action though, it is, pretty open, but it's uniquely still Weatherby, which I appreciate, of like being able and finding a problem and going and fixing some of those things. So
yeah, I think one of the things that's like in Weatherby's core values is just like quality, fit, and finish. Like over the years, I mean, it started with Roy and the wood and like the really cool diamonds in the wood that just like nobody was doing that. Still to this day, nobody has really done anything like that on a production level. The actions and their fitment with the 9 and 6 lug action, they're just kind of little miniature engineering marvels, and I think we took that same attention to detail and put it into this Model 307. And there's going to be people, I've been kind of preparing Adam for this like the hardcore Weatherby fans are probably going to be like, oh my gosh, you guys are selling out. There's this, you're doing it different. You're doing it wrong. There's no Monte Carlo stock, and we still have the Mark V lineup. It's not going anywhere. We're going to continue to build that out and add stuff and do more innovations on the Mark V platform. But this is a different customer set altogether. It's a totally different animal. And I think one of the things I was talking to Adam about is like we do well with the Mark V, but we're not like the biggest company in the world. I think doing stuff like this Model 307 is going to give us the ability to continue to do even more things in the Mark V and other lineups. So the move to Wyoming's been really good for us. We're far from done.
Yeah,
That's
and it really
kind of the
just
point.
follows that Weatherby footstep of like being purpose built. I mean, Roy had a reason why he wanted to build a Mark V. So
yeah,
he
wanted
purpose
that
built.
Magnum performance. Yeah, and this is purpose built for a different purpose than the Vanguard and the Mark V. Yeah. Ryan, is there? Well, I just this is more a personal question. What's been your like favorite part of this whole process?
I mean, just getting to see the gun through, shooting thousands of rounds through a gun's pretty fun. Getting a lot of range times, always fun.
You're
even if it
you're
does my
a
shoulder in,
military guy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, Marines.
Marines, yeah, yeah.
Reserves,
Yeah, reserves now.
Still-
Yep.
still
Yep.
active.
Still in reserves. Yep.
which is awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for that service.
Yep, thank you.
Do you get to shoot much in the Marines still?
Yeah, we still get to shoot, but not on the officer side so much. But yeah.
So it's
So
kind of fun.
coming out here and shooting and doing a little more, technical shooting has been fun. And this thing's shooting really well. So I don't think we're gonna have any problem holding that sub MOA guarantee with this guy.
No, we had some range time last week with some of the first short actions, like some of our sample guns that are going to riders and some of our partners, and like the 308s were like same whole gun, like really, really, really good.
Like almost too good.
That's what I was getting ready to go on a hunt, and Adam's like, "Did you see the chart on your gun that's set up there?" He's like, "Better not miss."
Yeah, that is kind of the downside is with our Ailer system in the basement when you get ready for a hunt and like you just got this like clover leaf of a pattern and you're like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to blame the gun now.
It's like, well, I fell down a mountain and scope got bumpers now. So.
Yeah, Jared, what's been your favorite part of this thing?
Oh man. So as someone who kind of just geeks out on guns, I've never, like I always look at something, like I look at something on the store shelf and be like, oh man, that's a cool feature, but man, I wish they didn't do this or do that. I think it's just been able to like just make a list of everything that is desirable and like a good idea and just incorporate it into like one like awesome action. So that's probably the biggest thing. It's just like there's so many things on that thing that are just like, I'm like, man, this is a small detail that no one will ever know unless you like really dug in.
Yeah, you
but
get way deep.
but it just makes me
Yeah.
excited inside.
Jared's sleeping really well at night, just like thinking about all those details.
It's great. Like I even just like, oh man, like probably geeking out like way too far. But like just like how you would put in pins like into the bolt release. Like, a lot of them do them from the top down. I'm like, don't do it that way. You can scratch the action and then you have to refinish it. And they're like, oh, okay, well, put it from the other side. So like, there's a lot of little
Just
things,
little bitty things,
little
like
bitty
that.
things that like from, being in Mark V, being in Vanguard and doing all sorts of things where I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool if we did this. So from manufacturing side, it makes me excited. And then also too, just from an end user point, like it's just jam-packed full features
It really
that
is.
are really, really awesome. So
What about you, Tyler?
I think so. This is kind of my 307 story. Is when I came on last summer. Obviously, through the interview process, I didn't know that 307 was a thing yet, and then it was like day.
I think I remember telling you,
Yeah.
like, we got some cool new stuff in the works.
Yeah, and then it was like day 2, and it was Adam's like, "Hey, did you hear about the giant launch that we have? Probably, we haven't launched an action in 50 years." And it's like, so being able to work with the marketing team and put together, I guess what you guys saw a launch of last week, working with our partners and stuff is pretty fun. So
It is really fun. Yeah, and I for me, like, it's kind of just all rolled up. It's been I love product development. Like, I wear a couple hats here at Weatherby, and historically the majority of my career has been in product development. Some products random. I started in like nail guns and air compressors, and I'm like, it's still in guns, just different projectiles. But just the whole process of like the trial and error and the iterations. And I remember sitting in a meeting downstairs with Ryan, actually, and we're sitting there like trying to figure out this tool-free takedown, and there was like 6 or 7 designs, and it just had this like light bulb moment. And I was like, I lean over to Ryan. You hadn't been here super long at
I was
point.
probably only here a month at that point.
Yeah, and I was like, hey, what if we did this? And he's like kind of quiet for a second, and he goes, it's super simple, and it would totally work.
And it's working great.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's just really fun. Like when you kind of just have a light bulb moment, you're like, when the simplest solution is also like the best. Like there's a lot of way to solve stuff. Like I've got a BMW motorcycle. I've like taken some parts off of it to put another part on, and you're like, you need like 17 specialty tools, and like the end result's really cool, but golly, they make it hard sometimes. It's like over-engineered, and I feel like this is just a really good blend of like simplicity, but for a purpose, and not to cut corners, but just to try to make it the best way. And I'm pretty excited with where we landed. So I think that's it. I mean, thanks for listening to this podcast. If you got, if this piqued your interest at all, go to weatherby.com. There should be a 307 pull down where you can find out more about the Range XP, the Alpine MDT, and there should be a little subheading for the builder's action. And we're going to set a limited quantity from the beginning on those builder's actions, and then when those are gone, we're going to build some guns out of our remaining receivers. But as we get caught up through the summer into the fall, we're going to do our best to be shipping builder's actions, and on that page we'll maintain what our lead times are. So if you're curious about what that looks like, go check it out.